Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Nick Davenport, aka Mr. Mental Muscle. Now, I want to start off with a story. I remember back when I was about 13 or 14 years old, I was at my cousin's house. This is one of my closest cousins, almost like a brother to me. And we're having dinner. Now, his parents had to step out, so we're just at home with him and his little brother. And we started eating the spaghetti that his mom had made. Now, I saw some Parmesan cheese, and who doesn't want to put Parmesan cheese on their spaghetti, right? That it got to be there. The sauce is great, obviously, but that cheese just does the trick. So I take the Parmesan and I just douse it all over. I'm like, yeah, about to tear this up. So I start eating it, and then I start realizing this is pretty salty. And I keep eating a few more bites. I'm like, why does it taste so salty? And then I look at the can and I realize it was sea salt. Now, the reason this happened because it was a green label and had the yellow top, just like Parmesan cheese does. So I didn't really look at the label. Now, my cousins were like, hey, man, just get another bowl of spaghetti. I'm like, nah, I've eaten this much. I don't want to waste food because that's how I was raised. So I ate the whole bowl of salty spaghetti. It was disgusting. It made me feel sick. It wasn't a good time. Now, this is an example of the sunk cost fallacy. Now, if you're not familiar with the sunk cost fallacy, this is a cognitive bias that allows us to invest more into something simply because of a past investment or past history with the said goal or subject. Because when you put so much into something, you really don't want to give it up. And it's understandable because time is valuable, whether it be money, whether it be emotion. If you give so much, you want to see it come back on the back end. You want your return on investment. Now, when I use the term investment, does not necessarily mean financial investment, but time, money, anything you put towards a goal, towards a relationship, towards something you're trying to build. This is what we mean. So you want to see it pay off eventually. Now, that example may seem extreme, but if we want to relate it to food, there's some other ways that can tie in because let's say you're on a diet, you're trying to lose a few pounds, and you've been pretty strict for the past 2 months. But today there's a pizza party at work and you eat a little bit too much than you should have. So since you've sunk into this, so this is a negative way of looking at it, you sunk into this investment of, you know what? I ate a few pieces, I might as well eat some more. Then the next time you eat dinner, oh, all right, I'm gonna get the dessert. And before you know it, the diet is off. Now, that example with food may not be extreme as my story, but if you put some effort into one process and you continue doubling down on it, you gotta weigh the outcome of is this gonna help me or is it gonna hinder me? Because it could go either way. Now, is it okay to eat a little more? Sure, because sometimes you have those times where you have a party. Remember, food is social too, so you can't always restrict yourself from that standpoint. But if you do it too much, the caloric intake will be too high and you're not gonna lose that weight. Now, another example is business. I can use this personally because Mind Body One is my current business where I train athletes, military, executives, schools. The list really goes on. And we train mental performance from the cognitive side, as well as mental coaching, psychology, getting your emotional regulation and mindset better. So this wasn't my first company. Actually, it wasn't even my second. So I really started with mental muscle fitness, which was a workout, some group training courses where they would do just fitness training and I would give them motivational drills to do like self-taught goal setting. But then that morphed into mental muscle performance where I started doing more consults with athletes on the mental performance side of things. And then eventually that wasn't going where it needed to be. It became Mind Body One. And that was over a decade span. So you can see how if I just say, you know what, I put so much in mental muscle fitness, I'm not going to change. But when you think about it, sometimes you have to pivot. Sometimes that first idea isn't the one. Even if it shows some sign of promise, it may not be the right one for you. Because I know with Mind Body One, when I pivoted to that, it still wasn't fully formed, but it opened up doors because it changed how I went about working with my clientele. And I innovated a lot of new methods that the world has never seen. And it got me on ESPN, Fox Sports, ABC, CBS, working with the world's best performers. And the list really goes on. So I'm grateful that I made that pivot. But if I had fallen victim to the sunk cost fallacy, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've even been evicted from places that I was renting for my facilities. So the logic is I put so much into it. I've lost, I've gained, I've spent money, I've made achievements because I've made achievements with mental muscle performance and mental muscle fitness. But all in all, it wasn't really getting to where I needed to be. Now, this is business sense, but it's also segue into investments monetarily because we talked about investing time, investing effort. But what about money? Now, we talk about stocks, we talk about crypto. This is a big thing nowadays. Think about all the people who got into, say, like Dogecoin or Shiba Inu, and they saw it boom. So you put more in, you put more in, you see it boom again and boom again. So what happens? You say, you know what? Even if it tanks a little bit, it's going to come back up. We're going to make it back. Then it tanks again. And he's like, okay, we'll make it back because you keep investing more because you know at one point it was booming. You made a few $1,000s, even more. So you keep putting more effort into it. Now you can see that carryover. That literally links to say like gambling. People who go to casino, that's their same thought process. People have gambling problems. They're a big proponent of sunk cost fallacy because they think that if I had the hot hand, I hit a bunch of jackpots on the slot machine, or I was playing blackjack or poker, whatever your game may be, they were hot. That's also something called the hot hand fallacy when you think your next play will be based on the previous, but that's a little bit different. This coming from the actual investment of time and money. So they look at it as if, I put all this money in, I've lost $10,000. I gotta get it back. I gotta put more because I know I've won before. So they keep sinking and sinking and sinking. And usually, I hate to say it, you don't get out. Now, when it comes to romantic relationships, it's the same premise. And I think this might even be the most important one to take away from all this because a lot of times we get involved with someone, we spend months, years, even longer, and you build these emotional attachments. But sometimes it might feel like you fall in, you fall out of love. And there's nothing wrong with that because when we talk about romance, it's dynamic. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. So that's not what I'm saying here. But it gets to the point when you say, have I put so much into this that I'm only doing it because I know I put the time in it? We have 3 years of history, or we have kids, or whatever it may be. Now, if it's something that is salvageable, I say explore that. There's therapy, counseling, things you can work on. But if it's to the point where, let's say, even if it gets extreme enough to like there's verbal abuse or even physical abuse, some people justify it by saying they're good at these times. So I know they have a good heart, but it's like, do they really? And you get so caught up in all the good things that happen that you will not make that choice to leave. And you always wonder, how does this happen when people get abused to any degree? But our brain is a very fickle thing. It makes these jumps. When it comes to cognitive biases, I talk about them a lot, but it's your brain trying to make a shortcut, trying to make a jump to get to an endpoint. Is it easier to rationalize every single possibility to make this make sense for you? Or just go with the first assumption is if they were good at one point, they could be good again. And we believe that. So it's what we want to believe. So we kind of trick ourselves, but our brain is already primed and wired to want to go with the quickest endpoint, which is, hey, if I already love them, why start over? If I already comfortable with them, we already know each other's habits, we get along, but the downs can't be more than the ups. There has to be a fair balance. I'm not saying that the downs can't happen. Like I said, that's part of the dynamic aspect of love. You got to work for it. And that's the whole point of this is because when you can make that informed decision to know that this is more than me just investing more and more, this is actually saying that we can build to the future because that's the biggest part of the fallacy. What are the future outcomes saying? It's not to say you deny the past. The past does matter. It's just a matter of, do I take the outcome of, if I keep doing this, will it eventually be a better future? If that looks like yes, then this is not a bad thing. But if you see the repetitive patterns of repetitive behaviors and you're like, you know what? I keep getting to the same endpoint. I keep getting to the same goal. That just goes for anything, not just romance. If the endpoint doesn't look like the benefit outweighs the risk, you might want to rethink it because the whole point of a cognitive bias is it hinders our judgments. It gives us these misconceptions to inform our decisions in a way that is not that beneficial for us to succeed. That's the whole point of all this. I like to give these advice, this coaching tips, because in order to succeed and make better judgments, you need to be aware of what's happening. And that's the biggest part of fixing a behavior is, first of all, being aware that's even happening. You may be falling victim to sunk cost fallacy right now. It could be watching a movie. This is a little more lighthearted. You say, oh, this movie's kind of boring. You're 15 minutes in. Say, I'm gonna give it a little longer. Next thing you know, you're 45 minutes in. You're like, oh, I'm a little more than halfway. I might as well watch the whole thing. But why? You didn't like the movie. Just like me with that spaghetti. I didn't like it. It was disgusting because I put so much salt on it. But the fact was, my brain said, you know what? You did this much. You might as well keep going. Now, before we get out of here, let's talk about a positive side of sunk cost fallacy. Let's say going back to like fitness and health. If you're going to the gym, you're ready to give up. It's like, man, I don't know if I want to work out today, or you had a week and you're like, I don't know if I want to get back into it. Think about it like this. Man, I put so much years into this or months into this, whatever time frame it was. Why would I stop it now? There's so much I put in to build up to this physique or this endurance or whatever your performance goals might be. Why would I quit here? So you see how that can go the positive way? So that's not a bad way to use sunk cost fallacy to your benefit. Or maybe like helping someone out. Altruism is great. Helping people out makes us feel good and it helps others. Oh, I've been helping them for this long. Let me give them a little more time and help them some more because they're so close to getting to their goal and I know I can help out. Now, don't let them take advantage of you. But the point is, I can add value to them. If I've done this much, a little more won't hurt. So That's sunk cost fallacy. Don't fall victim to it unless it's going to help you and others get their mind right. Thanks, guys, and have a great weekend.